I promise you, I never knew I was capable of anything like this. I used to be one of the nicest girls ever. I used to be. I was one of those girls who would cry whenever I saw a dead dog in the street. I used to be one of the nicest girls ever. I hated how so many black girls were mean all the time. I prided myself on being nice. It wasn't until a few years ago that I finally came to understand them. When I finally got old enough to start going out to the real adult clubs. I loved it. I would dance all night if I could. I would dance with any guy as long as he asked me nicely. But that was where the problem began. I would dance with a guy and he would try to get all on top of me. I would try to create some breathing room, but so many brothers just can't keep themselves from getting out of control. They would try to fill me up as if they were about to get some right here on the dance floor. And when I would say enough is enough, they would talk shit.
For real? You got like fucked up. Think just cause a couple niggas holler at you that you all that? You just look like you give good head, bitch. That's all a nigga want from your janky ass. The fuck out of here with that bullshit.
As much as I love to dance, I decided I wasn't gonna dance with guys anymore. I mean, guys have always tried to hit on me. And I don't mean to complain, but it would be nice for a guy to just say hello. And it meant hello. These brothers would ask me for my number. And if I wasn't interested, they would push and push and push as if I was some dumb bitch who couldn't make up her mind to something. It all started to piss me off. I stopped dressing up as much just to avoid the drama, but it didn't help. Then, about a year ago, a close friend of mine talked me into going out. I really didn't want to go, but she talked me into it. I'm just trying to chill. When this one brother decides I am the woman of his dreams, I kept moving. He kept finding me. So finally, I told my friend I was leaving because I wanted him to leave me alone. I wanted her to come with me, but she chose to stay. Then, the next morning, she called me and told me some guy drugged her. And I felt guilty for leaving her, but even more guilty because I was so glad it didn't happen to me. I was done with going out to clubs. I didn't want to have to guard my drink every time I went out. I found other things to do. I went to see what else was going on in the city. Plays, jazz concerts, art. I started spending time at coffee houses. I still dealt with the occasional asshole, but overall, I liked the flow of my life. I don't know how long he was watching me. I don't know how long. I got my first letter in the fall. I thought it was kind of cute. A little creepy, but cute. Then, every so often, more letters. Flowers for Valentine's Day. I kind of liked having a secret admirer. Secret admirer. After a couple of months of keeping to myself, I decided to accept a date with a coworker of mine who I thought was a pretty nice guy. The next morning, I had a letter waiting for me. An angry letter. Accusing me of being a slut, just like the rest of them. I stopped liking having a secret admirer then. I realized he had been watching me, even the night before as I left my house for my date. It scared the shit out of me. I told my friends. They brought me to the police, but the police said they couldn't do anything until I at least knew what he looked like. It freaked me out. I became wary of any man who looked and smiled at me, wondering if he was the one. I decided not to go out with anyone for a while. After a couple of months, there were no more letters. So I asked my coworker out. Again. I had a letter waiting on me the next morning. This letter was a little more threatening. He asked me if I thought he gave a fuck about the police. That shit scared me beyond belief. I made my father help me move to a different part of the city. Even then, I had my mother stay with me a couple of weeks. I was afraid to leave the house. 3 days after she left, I got a phone call. It took me a moment to realize it was him. He told me he was glad to see I had moved to such a nice neighborhood. He described my street. He described my house. He had been watching me, even from the shadows. But the police were able to trace him with that phone call. You came to my house. You showed me his picture. I was able to get a restraining order against him. I felt a little better knowing what he looked like. A week later, I opened my front door and I found a plastic bag on my front porch with a piece of paper that had my name on it. I was scared to open it because I figured it was from him, but I did anyways. It was my cat, cut into pieces. I dropped the bag and ran back into the house. I got a phone call and it was him, just laughing and laughing. He asked me if I thought he gave a fuck about my restraining order, and told me that all I had done was really pissed him off. Before he hung up, he said the words, "I see you soon." I hung up the phone and I called the police. They said that there was nothing they could do since no one had seen him break the restraining order. My friends and family rarely left me alone after that. They would follow me home after work. They would even make sure I got into my home safely before they would leave. Still, a few weeks later, my escort lagged behind me a bit, and I got home a few minutes before he did. I got out of my car, and this man came running at me with a knife. He hesitated before he came closer and stared at me for a moment. It seemed like he enjoyed my fear. Then he slashed my arm. I fell to the ground and he was about to finish me off when my friend pulled up in their car and he sprinted away. That's when I realized he planned to kill me. That he was never going to give up. The more I tried to get away, the more focused he became. And I wasn't going into witness protection. That's the moment I realized I had to choose. Him or me. I made my father take me to go get a handgun. I went to training camp for handguns and learned all that I could. I got home, and I didn't wait for him to find me with my defenses down. So I called him. He was shocked, to say the least. He was suspicious at first, but after a while, I was able to convince him that I was impressed by his determination. And that maybe one day, we'd really be together. I asked him to meet me. Just me and him. No cops. No friends, no family. Just me and him. I set our date at a bar a few miles away from where I lived. I got all dressed up and waited at an alley down the street from the bar. He actually showed up. With flowers, all dressed up and everything. I told him I wanted to talk to him in private, and I got him to follow me into the alleyway. We walked maybe 60 feet. I pulled out my gun and turned around and told him not to move. He was shocked, to say the least. He asked me, what did I plan to do? I told him I planned to kill him. He told me I wasn't going to get away with it. I laughed. I really laughed. He didn't realize the Sierra he knew had gone bye-bye. I slammed my head into the wall a few times, just until I was bleeding. I got myself looking all nice and abused. He stared at me, shocked. And I asked him, was he sure I wasn't going to get away with it? He looked angry and started walking towards me. But of course he stopped once I clicked my safety off. I began to cry. My face turning into a look of abject fear. I screamed at him. Please, please don't do this. I swear, the Academy would have given me the Best Actress nod for sure. And I dropped the gun like I was broken up so emotionally to have done such a horrible thing. I watched him die. I got real close, just so I could make sure. He saw me smile as I watched his soul descend into hell. I wish I could tell you I felt some kind of regret for doing it, but I would just be lying. I murdered him. I really don't think I had a choice, but it was murder, without a doubt. I have searched my soul in weeks since it happened, and have been surprised to find that I do not feel bad about it. I do not see his face when I go to sleep at night. I do not feel some strange sensation where I go near the place that I shot him. I really can't tell you what has happened to me. But I promise you, I used to be one of the nicest girls ever.
Why the hell are you on this video?